Hi everyone, how's it going? Empress Justice here. I'm so sorry that this video was late. But yeah, all the daily readings and stuff like that, they're all on there. So I'm sorry I'm late, but they've been up there since this morning. So if you want to check them out, you can still check them out. Also, check out my July 2022 reading. That's on Empress Justice Tarot YouTube. And also check out my full moon in Uttara Ashada reading. Full moon is actually coming up in a few days. I think it's coming up on Thursday, I believe. So yeah, so check. Now, is it Thursday? So hold on. So the 12th is Tuesday, 13th is Wednesday, 14th. No, it's coming up on Wednesday. It's coming up on the 13th. Tell a lie. So 13th of July, full moon is coming up in Uttara Ashara. And you can go ahead and check that out on Empress Justice Tarot YouTube. Yeah, so welcome everybody. How's it going? Yeah, so I've just been cooking all day. Like, I wouldn't call it slaving away because I've been able to kind of like take my eye off it, take my eye on it. So I wouldn't actually call it slaving away. But I've been cooking all day, and on top of that, just been doing my little thing over here. The readings didn't take long to do, so I've just been cooking basically and cleaning and just being a little housewife, even though there's no ring to speak of. But yeah, so I haven't done anything all day. Update on my situation. Seems like everything's calm. I mean, everybody's been out all day. I haven't been out all day, but everybody else has. So things have been really, really quiet as usual. I've been having it, I've been talking to another TI, and he's been really talking a lot about what he's gone through. And I'm not going to say everything. Suffice to say that I've thought a couple of times about people coming in and contaminating my stuff. I mean, has something been done to one of my products? Probably. I don't know which ones, but I mean, the whole point is to traumatize me, right? So what's the point if I don't know? What's the point? So, what's the point in worrying about it? Just like be extra clean, be extra, comb for any strange hairs, collect strange hairs, you know what I'm saying? Just in case. Do you know what I mean? That's all I can do. I can't do anything more than that. I can't exactly replace everything that I've bought because, so it's a money thing. I can't do that. Not yet anyway. So, yeah, it's as vile as it is that someone can come into your home and contaminate your things. It's, a lot of TIs know that's not the worst thing that somebody could do. You hear these horror stories of really vulnerable, targeted individuals, like being taken advantage of, being drugged up and taken advantage of, being hypnotized and taken advantage of. And let's not forget, recently, like it was only a couple of months ago, where a mother and child were killed in a car accident because perps were running them off the road. And that's something that happens to TIs a lot. When they're on the road, either they're attacked with electronic weapons so they can't drive properly or can't drive at all, or they're run off the road by some other perp asshole. So it's, as horrible as everything is, I've been through worse, first of all. I go through worse every day. And the second thing is that there's no limit to how evil this thing gets. Because remember, this is a human trafficking operation and an experiment operation. And addicts are hired because, they're compulsive. So they will do anything for their next hit. Let me put it into context of how exactly perpdom works. So you get those perps who are addicts, right? The perps who are addicts, it's not just a simple case of them being druggies or alkies or all the rest of it. There's more to it than that. You have to consider that once you get hooked on a drug, Your body goes through a lot during withdrawals. So sometimes just the act of taking drugs or the act of giving into your addiction, it might not actually be so much killing you as being like a fight for your life, because once you get hooked on it, your body has to purge itself if you ever want to get off it. And that withdrawal can range from, you know, from being uncomfortable, getting night sweats and getting diarrhea and stuff like that. You know, some people have died during withdrawal. So this is not an easy thing to go through. So addicts are really, really useful in terms of getting people involved in this, because even if they think all of this is wrong, I mean, what are they going to do? Withdraw? It could literally harm your body to even come off it. So it's like, so that's the first type of perps, the addicts. The second type of perps are ordinary people who know that what they're doing to you is wrong. But the thing is, what happens is that they know they're about to do something very, very wrong and very, very illegal. But what happens is somebody shows up with a file and says, this is what this person has been doing, either being vague or lying about what you've done. So what happens is that then the person doing wrong, they jump at the chance to be able to do it, because then it's, you know, I might be doing wrong, but I might be doing it for a valid reason. So when it comes to normal people who get involved in this, they need to believe the worst in you in order to justify what they're doing, because in order for them to do street theater and, you know, smear campaigns against you, if they've done all this and there's nothing to show for it, for them, it doesn't bear thinking about. So instead of actually confronting the idea that maybe I shouldn't be doing this, maybe I shouldn't be trusting a file from a random stranger that might be filled with a bunch of exaggerations, the worst might be picked out of it in order to paint an inaccurate picture of the person. Like, instead of thinking about that, they will jump behind believing the worst about you, not because they actually believe it, but because they need to water down their own guilt over their actions. So it is a form of projection. But that's normal people when they get involved in this shit. And then you've got members of the dark triad. You've got the sadists, you've got the, you know, the narcissists, and you've got the sociopaths. I think the sociopaths or the psychopaths are part of the dark triad. Or it could be the dark square, I don't fucking know. But then you get to the people who quite obviously observe cruelty as a way of life. Now with them, it's really quite simple. The best way to appeal to somebody who thrives in cruelty is to get them to do cruel things. Those type of people are usually good for firing electronic weapons. They're usually good for being a bit higher up in this program. There was one person that another TI told me about who was actually a controller, not a handler, a controller, so he's higher up. And he's had multiple strokes from firing the weapons that he's fired. It got to a point where he was actually threatened by the people who hired him and said that if you don't do this, we're going to kill you. So the higher up you go up the ladder is the more likely you're likely to deal with sadists, with psychopaths, with sociopaths, with criminals. So there's different levels to perpdom. I mean, I forgot about the mentally ill as well. I did forget about the mentally ill. Now, the mentally ill don't have any emotional breaks. Do you remember when I talked about, I don't know if there are people who have been watching my videos for a while now, but I spoke about the breaks when I was in the hostel. So with Brighton Sea, or with Hove, right, they've got these wave breaks so that when the waters come in, they stabilize the impact of the waves so that it basically doesn't flood the whole fucking town, right? With mentally ill people, even people who are completely rational, who don't have hallucinations, who don't have irrational thoughts, what happens is that either their emotional wave breaks are not there or their emotional wave breaks are diminished. So you've got mentally ill people who are basically an exaggerated version of normal people who become perps. They're an exaggerated form of that. So when they do something, the guilt that they feel is magnified in comparison to the normal person who's doing the perping against you. That's the first thing. So their guilt is compounded by about 1,000 times. So their need to believe the worst in you, or their need to villainize you, or their need to demonize you, or their need to smear you, it becomes even more pronounced than it does for the normal person. It becomes even more a compulsion to remove themselves of that guilt. That's one of the things that make mentally ill people so effective. Because the truth of the matter is, so-called normal people, they can be members of the dark triad too. The only difference between mentally ill people and so-called normal people is the emotional wave breaks, whether they're there or whether they're like diminished or not. That's the only difference. So everything you observe about normal people who become perps, you observe about people who are mentally ill who become perps. That's what makes them especially effective. And if they're women, so much the better, because women go through a lot of shit. Women are perfect perps. And it's not because we're any more evil. It's not because we're any more, but because women hang on to things. We do hang on to things. We've got all that emotional, like hormonal crap to deal with. Even if we're not fully grown and we're not in puberty yet. The thing is, whatever feelings that us women get, or however you make a woman feel, she will multiply it. That's what makes her an especially good perp. So if I make a female perp feel like shit about herself, she will go above and beyond to do the most heinous shit she can think of in order to settle it. That's what makes a female perp so perfect. Now, men are actually more vindictive than women, but the extremes they go to is not that much in comparison to women. Not from what I've observed. Men are actually more vindictive than women are. It's just that women go to more extremes than men do. Yeah? That's the thing. That's what makes women such great perps. And that's what makes, girl children such great perps. Second children. Let me tell you something right now, right? If you've got perps who are a family, I'm not talking about anybody in particular now. I'm just talking in generalities, right? You've got perp who are a family. The second child is especially perfect for handler fodder, because depending on how young they are, they're not going to understand the situation yet. In comparison to the older child, because remember, the mom's going to be older by the time the second child comes along. So the nutritional value isn't there in comparison to the older one. Second of all, the second child would probably know more chaos and more grief than the first child does, or at least they would have seen less peace and less tranquility than the first child. So the second child becomes a really, really perfect perp to use, because it's similar to being a woman, or it's similar to being not a mentally ill person. I don't think that's right, but it's similar to being a woman, really, because the second child is more vulnerable emotionally. It doesn't matter how old they get either. The second child is always going to be more emotionally vulnerable in some way. Because, there isn't as much care with the second child as there is with the first. There isn't as much, it's like what happens is that there's not as much care taken in the moments leading up to the child's birth. And then what happens when the second child is born? There's an overcorrection. So that, combined with the lack of nutritional value, combined with, being born into a situation that is already established and it's chaos, second children can be really, really well used and well utilized. Younger children could be really well utilized in perps if the perp is a family. So Whilst my perps come from all walks of life, they come from all walks of life, they come from all different backgrounds, races, genders, fucking, wage brackets, whatever. They come from all walks of life. Let's be real about this. They come from all walks of life. But there are specific targets that I have noticed that are more effective in terms of providing a distraction for the TI, so that they are not actually focused on their electronic torture. They're focused on the petty shit. Because the electronic torture is actually what's more important. Breaking into my house is not essential to the torture. There's no reason for it. Calling me the N-word over and over is not essential to the electronic torture. There's no reason for it. Smearing me might be essential, but you can easily do that without harassing me. You can easily turn around and lie and say, well, they've been doing this, and this. You could easily just lie and people will believe you. So there's no actual reason to engage in reactive abuse. That's just added cruelty for the sake of added cruelty. If you want to lie, you can lie. If you're good enough, people will believe you. You don't need reactive abuse in order to do it. But the reactive abuse is there in order to break down your resolve and make you not speak out against everything that you've been through. But it's actually not necessary. None of that is necessary. It's simply there so that people can feel like they're in charge of something and feel like they're in control. And it's there to boost perp morale, to make them feel like they're in control of the situation. And that's the only reason why we're getting all this shit. So yeah, there are specific types of perps who are going to work better than others. Yeah, so there are specific types of perps who are more useful than others, but don't get it twisted. Don't spend so hard watching second children, women, mentally ill people, and addicts that you miss everybody else. That's not something you want to do, because the alchemical fraternities that have been in control of these social experiments, that have been nominating people for these social experiments and for this trafficking over bullshit, most of them are men. Okay? So don't be fooled by the perps at the lower level. We've still got to deal with the higher level people. And most of those people are white men. Wealthy white men. Do you understand? So as much as I might list the type of perps that might be more effective when it comes to dealing with us, like addicts and women and mentally ill people, anyone with a low emotional threshold are likely to be perps. And if they can get people with low emotional threshold and a high cruelty threshold, so much the better. So much the better, no matter who it is. This honey is especially good today. But anyway. Yeah. I didn't expect this to be such an educational video, but yeah, that's how it is in targeted individuals. Oh yeah, I posted a memory from 2 years ago of when I wrote to Lloyd Russell Moyle. Thank God I fucking posted it. Oh my God. There are times when I post on social media and I'm thinking, why the fuck did I do that? This is not one of those times, babes. If you missed it, you need to check on my Instagram, check on my Facebook. That particular Facebook post is going to be public, so check that out. And also check out my Twitter, Seraphim Rage, at Seraphim Rage 25. It's going to be on there as well. So I wrote an email to Lloyd Russell Moyle about exactly what's going on. What I didn't know in coming to Brighton, what I didn't actually know was that there was an arms company here called EDOMBM, and I think I mentioned them before. I had no idea. If I'd have known, if I'd have done my research before I came down here, I would have immediately hit him up and said, look, you know, fucking mortar is not the only thing that they're using anymore. They haven't been relying solely on mortar for years. They've got directed energy weapons as well that they might be using. And they might be using it on people over here because it's an invisible weapon. So I could have, if I'd have done my research enough, I could have reached out to him and said, look, this is what they're using. But hey ho, that's just the way things go, innit? That's just the way things go. You learn in hindsight. But anyway, I'm going to go. I love you guys so much. I love this fade. I love this fucking fade so much, bitch. I'm going to get it again. I'm going to get it again. I love it. But anyway, I love you guys. Take care, my fellow TIs. Peace and blessings. I want to tell you to stay strong, but I can't tell you how to feel. All I can do is thank you for being here. Not with me, for being here on this planet. Because the world needs you more than you know. So anyway, I love you guys. Peace and blessings. Mwah. Bye-bye.